like to invite our first speaker in the main session, Ibrahim Al Nadhairi, who's the Chief Executive Officer of ASYAD Shipping and Drydock Services, one of the major players in this area and combining both shipping and the dry dock operation. So he's got a unique perspective to give us. Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to thank the Maritime Standards for giving me the opportunity for myself and my team to come to Dubai and to basically present ASYAD Shipping and ASYAD Drydock, which is formerly used to be called Oman Shipping and Oman Drydock. So for those who had that sort of confusion, we are actually the same company. It's just a brand change. So this morning, it's an honor for me to stand here before you to share my thoughts on how would the maritime industry look like after the COVID-19 pandemic, and what is expected from us as ship owners, ship managers, and all who are involved in the shipping industry. To come up with a good and factual speech, I had to look for another crisis that also impacted the shipping industry and briefly compare it to the recent crisis so that we can see where we stand and how much we learned from our past experience. As we all know that the shipping industry adaptability and resilience is always tested from time to time through economic shocks. COVID-19 being one amongst many in the past and certainly not the last one. So we should be also prepared for something that comes in the future. And we should, I don't want to say look forward for it, but at least we need to be prepared in making ourselves ready for any future crisis. Well, it's imperative that these crises trigger different ramifications. However, it is also important for us to realize and to highlight that there's always a bright side of anything. These shocks provide us some bright sides, and it shows also how resilient the shipping experts like yourselves are when dealing with such challenges, and how innovative we become in turning these challenges into opportunities. Over a period of just a decade, we have experienced two major crises. One was in 2008 and 2009, which was the financial crisis that impacted the entire global economy, resulting in a global recession. And of course, it impacted us as shipping industry. The intergovernmental trade agreements, trade growth, as well as the future trade flow were fundamentally challenged, leading to performing the ways of applying logistic concepts. The reliability of concepts like the just-in-time, which was widely applied in the past, were questioned. The shipping companies and seaports had to readjust, and the misallocation were corrected following the aftermath of the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. This was, of course, a natural reaction from a business cycle perspective, where the market is very dynamic and continuously cyclical. The unprecedented impacts on the shipping industry and the global supply chain due to the COVID-19 pandemic caused a new way of thinking, where the consumer's demand had the say on the shipping and on port operation activities. Most of the shipping companies and corporates had to revisit their corporate strategies to a great extent. And I'm sure many of you have experienced that change. However, it's important to understand that the long-term impact resulting from the alteration of corporate strategies, the advancement made in adapting the capacity and resilience demonstrated by the shipping companies and seaports are yet to be experienced. So whatever we have gone through is just the start. What we have gone through and what we are living today is considered to be the short-term impact. The point I'm trying to make here is that further analysis of the impacts on the global supply chains, strategic behavior of the carriers, market structure, and operational direction of the shipping companies in the long term need to be thoroughly analyzed. I think we need to be proud as shipping companies, all of us in here, regardless of our specialties, but we manage to maintain the network integrity throughout the pandemic. And the ships continued to sail despite the declining demands. And despite all the port closures, despite all the challenges, our ships continued to sail. And this has gone to a great extent and appreciated, and also it shows the value of the maritime industry. However, this cannot continue forever, especially with the expected slow economic recovery, the geopolitical crisis that keep popping up from every now and then, and the ongoing reorganization of the global supply chain. Shipping companies may find themselves at one point of time that they are forced to rationalize their services in the main trade routes, and they are required to put extra effort to enhance their intra-regional network. As a shipping company with a diversified fleet, we at ASYAD Shipping are in the opinion that the risk on the demand side will remain active. Unpredictable, as Clive previously said, when he said that the unpredictability of this industry makes everyone uncomfortable, which is true. Taking into consideration the dynamic changes in the factors affecting the shipping industry, the global deteriorating economic outlook, the geopolitical crisis, bunker costs, COVID-19 aftermath, and many more. Putting all this together, it is fair to say that it is a volatile situation where accurate forecasting becomes close to impossible. It is a main challenge for the global shipping and the port industry to face common interface. Not only usual business cycle, but also the non-stopping changes in the growth rates and the disruptive shipping activities that affects the industry. Crises are significant indicators of how adaptive the industry is in front of such fast, sudden, and stressful events. The shipping industry is familiar with the worldwide crises such as the financial 2008 and 2009 crisis that affected largely the shipping and relevant businesses, while the COVID-19 pandemic played almost a similar global effect on the shipping industry. The two crises blasted differently. For the financial crisis, and due to the weak internal financial system, a crisis came out despite signs of warning and cost us several years to recover from. Whereas the pandemic was an external factor, which was not as much warning, that changed the supply chain and trade suddenly and rapidly. Thus, even though COVID-19 and the financial crisis impacted ports and shipping network, they did not have the similar pattern on them. The consolidation wave of 2014 to 2017, as well as the alliance formation, have revealed on the slow steaming strategy being tried out during the financial crisis, but not fully utilized during the COVID-19, of course, for obvious reasons. Nonetheless, operating services and cost through larger ships by the shipping companies worked well in both crises. In fact, the shipping companies were naturally trained for the pandemic because of confronting previous crises beside the alliance formation. Therefore, we could say that capacity management is considered as vigorous resilience strategy in the industry. Notably, for the terminal operators and our colleagues here from the terminal operators, they have shown a smoother adaptation to the two crises due to their insight from previous experiences and also their employed strategies, including cost control, construction projects, and terminal structure. They obviously outpaced the shipping companies, and maybe it's something that is important for us to learn from. And moreover, reflecting on positive EBITDA margins compared to the long-term investment of the ports. It is something that we need to learn from our friends and our colleagues as in the terminal operation. Altogether, ports terminals operators have shown an ability to adapt to various events, no matter how low, major, or marginal they are. Although ports had to respond to a smaller number of vessels calls, at the same time, at the financial decline earlier, they have done the same thing and they learned from their previous experience. Their level of utilization was surprisingly higher than those of 2008 and 2009. It was a success, even though the new protocols of COVID-19 have imposed certain constraints. So, well done. Last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, while reflecting on the effects of the two major crises, a person would think of the distinctive characteristics that each gave us and gave to the maritime industry, and what we can learn from these, and how we can proceed going forward, and how we can make use of this, how we can work together as teams, as competitors, but we work together when it comes to crisis management. Eventually, crises do play a significant role on such changes in the structure and development of our industry. With that, I conclude my speech, and I wish you a very fruitful day. Thank you very much.